Get out of here. I'm telling you. The police station is not a place for people like you to come in and cause trouble. To cause trouble. Officer Kyle Rourke, the police officer on duty at the Bridgeport Police Department's reception desk, roared, his face red with anger and lack of restraint. His giant hand pointed straight at a black woman, about 40 years old, dressed somewhat casually, even a little sloppily, standing on the other side of the counter. The woman, trying to keep her composure under the police officer's aggressive attitude. "Officer, I just want to report an incident that just happened. Would you please listen to me for a moment?" Officer Rourke let out a contemptuous snort, then quickly stepped out from behind the counter, approaching the woman with a menacing look. "Report what? Or are you trying to make up some story to cause trouble? To annoy us? That's all you people do, always causing trouble and blaming others." Suddenly, without warning, he swung his right arm, a merciless punch that landed squarely on the woman's left shoulder, causing her to stagger, almost falling flat on her face onto the cold floor. "Get the hell out of here before I get really mad," he shouted, his voice full of savagery, an unacceptable act of violence, a blatant abuse of power coming from a police officer on duty, right in the headquarters of a public authority. What could have caused him to act so cruelly and lawlessly? What will the poor woman, the victim of violence, do to defend herself and seek justice? And does Officer Kyle Rourke have any idea that that cruel blow has just put an irreparable end to his career, in a way he could never have imagined? The black woman who is suffering from such mistreatment is Aaliyah Ali Hayes, 42 years old. She has just been appointed by the Bridgeport City Council to the position of the city's new police chief, a position that is both powerful and extremely challenging. Bridgeport, a once prosperous industrial port city, is now facing many painful problems of security and order, increasing crime, and most seriously, continuous allegations of racism, abuse of power and violence against people occurring within the city's own police force. Aaliyah Hayes is a veteran police officer with more than 20 years of experience working in many different major cities across the country, from New York to Los Angeles. She is known in the industry for her intelligence, decisiveness, a strong spirit, fairness, and a fierce determination to reform and clean up the agencies and units she is entrusted to lead. Her salary as the Bridgeport Police Chief, though not too high compared to the heavy responsibility, was about $150,000 a year. The reason Aaliyah Hayes was present at the Bridgeport Police Department that evening, in a completely different appearance from the image of a powerful female police chief, was because she was carrying out a secret plan, an incognito trip that only one person knew about. Before officially taking office and being introduced to the public as well as the entire city police force the next day, Aaliyah wanted to personally, with her own eyes, evaluate the current situation at the Bridgeport Police Department in the most objective and truthful way. She wanted to know the true attitude of the subordinate officers towards the people, especially towards those from minority communities, the disadvantaged. This daring undercover plan was only known and secretly supported by Deputy Chief David Ramirez, a veteran Latino police officer whom Aaliyah trusted completely and had chosen as her deputy. To carry out this plan, Aaliyah Hayes disguised herself as Brenda Jackson, an ordinary citizen, a working-class black woman dressed in a somewhat plain, even old-fashioned way. She deliberately chose the time to be on the night shift, a time when she thought police officers would be most likely to be negligent, subjective, and easily reveal their true nature. She went to the police station with the reason of reporting a minor incident, an incident that was not too serious but still required police intervention. Aaliyah Hayes' real goal in this incognito trip was nothing more than to directly observe the attitude of the officers on duty, learn about the actual working process at the department, and most importantly, to find out the bad apples who are ruining the image of the police, who are causing discontent and loss of trust in the community. She wanted to build a truly clean, strong Bridgeport Police Department, a force that truly serves and protects all citizens, without any discrimination. Officer Kyle Rourke, about 35 years old, white, had been with the Bridgeport Police Department for 7 years. During that time, Rourke had developed a reputation within the department not for his outstanding work performance, but for his hot temper, his habit of using unnecessary force in inappropriate situations, and especially his blatant and undisguised racism, especially toward the Black and Latino communities living in Bridgeport. He had been the subject of numerous complaints about his violent behavior and derogatory remarks. But all of these incidents were either dismissed lightly or sunk, possibly due to the cover-up of a few like-minded superiors, or perhaps because the victims, fearing retaliation, did not dare to pursue the case. The annual salary of a patrol officer like him is only about $65,000, and he always feels that he is treated unfairly, always thinking that he deserves more. In Kyle Rourke's twisted and warped mind, he always believes that he is the law, that he has the right to treat people, especially those from minority groups whom he considers inferior, in any way he wants. He despises the regulations on professional ethics, the codes of conduct of police officers, thinking that they are just empty theories. Officer Kyle Rourke's mental state that evening, when Aaliyah Hayes, as Brenda Jackson, walks into the police station, is also at its worst. He has just had a heated argument with his wife at home about money and unpaid bills. In addition, having to take on a long, tiring, and boring night shift made him even more frustrated, irritable, and ready to vent all his anger and dissatisfaction on anyone he felt annoyed or unreasonable. And Brenda Jackson unfortunately became his victim at the cold, deserted counter of the Bridgeport Police Department. Aaliyah Hayes tried to make her case as calmly, politely, and clearly as possible, even though she knew she was dealing with someone who was not a pleasant person. "Officer," she said, her voice trying to sound a little timid. "My name is Brenda Jackson. I would like to report that my old car, which was parked in a public parking lot near my apartment building, was deliberately vandalized by a group of young men who spray-painted the car and smashed the windshield." Officer Kyle Rourke did not listen to her story. He interrupted her rudely, his voice full of contempt and ridicule. "The car was vandalized? I bet it was your junkie friends, right? Or did you owe them money and they came to collect it? You guys are always up to some stupid, dirty shit. Go home and settle it yourselves. Don't come here and bother us police with these petty, pointless things." Aaliyah Hayes tried to stay calm, even though anger was starting to rise inside her. "Sir, this is a case of vandalism, and as far as I know, it's the police's responsibility to take the report and investigate. I have the right to report this legally." Aaliyah's seemingly reasonable and demanding words only made Officer Kyle Rourke even angrier and more impatient. He felt like he was being lectured by a black bitch. "Authority? In this place, I have the authority. I am the law. Didn't you hear me say go away?" He began swearing profanely, using harsh racial slurs, words that no self-respecting person would accept. Mr. Lee, a middle-aged Asian man, was sitting in a nearby waiting area to file a stolen document report and witnessed the entire incident from beginning to end. He was very concerned and indignant at the police officer's attitude, but did not dare to intervene, for fear that he would also be made difficult or get into unnecessary trouble. When Aaliyah Hayes continued to persistently and legally demand that her report be recorded, that she be treated fairly, Officer Kyle Rourke completely lost control. He roared like a wounded animal, then suddenly swung his right arm, throwing a punch without mercy, hitting Aaliyah's left shoulder. "This is the last time I warn you, bitch! Get out!" The punch was quite strong. Although it did not hit a vital spot, it still made Aaliyah Hayes stagger, Her left shoulder was in excruciating pain. A terrible anger, an unprecedented indignation rose up in her chest. She had faced the most dangerous criminals, life and death situations, but she had never felt so insulted and treated so cruelly, right in the place where she was about to become a leader. However, with the courage and experience of a seasoned police officer, Aaliyah quickly restrained her boiling emotions. She suddenly realized that this was the best opportunity to expose the true faces of the corrupt, the worms who were corrupting the image of the police force, like Officer Kyle Rourke. She deliberately appeared weak, scared, and submissive. Sorry, officer. I understand. I'll go now," she said, her voice trembling. Then she gently hugged her injured shoulder, turned around and walked slowly, as if she was in great pain and fear. Officer Kyle Rourke looked after her, smiling triumphantly and smugly. He thought he had taught that stubborn black woman a lesson she would never forget. He had no idea that all his actions, all his arrogant and violent words, were all recorded by a super small recording device, an advanced FBI technology that Aaliyah had secretly installed on her before entering the police station, fully, clearly, and irrefutably recorded. After leaving the counter and out of Officer Kyle Rourke's sight, Aaliyah Hayes quickly found a secluded spot near the police station's entrance. She pulled out her second cell phone, a secure one for special missions only, and quickly dialed Deputy Chief David Ramirez, who was waiting in a nearby location. "David, it's me," Aaliyah said, her voice still shaking but determined. "We've got a big fish, even bigger than I thought. Get everything set up as planned. I want it to be perfect." Deputy Chief David Ramirez, despite having been informed by Aaliyah of the worst-case scenarios that could occur during this incognito trip, was still shocked and angry when Aaliyah briefly recounted how she had been insulted and even assaulted by Officer Rourke. He immediately reassured Aaliyah and promised to execute the prepared plan as quickly and accurately as possible. About 15 minutes later, while Officer Kyle Rourke was still sitting smugly and complacently at the duty desk, perhaps bragging about his recent exploits to a colleague on the phone, a convoy of black police vehicles with flashing emergency lights suddenly entered the yard of the Bridgeport Police Department and stopped right in front of the main door. Deputy Chief David Ramirez, in a neat police uniform, with the rank of Deputy Chief of Police on his lapel, quickly stepped out of the lead vehicle. Following him were several other senior police officers whom Aaliyah had trusted to participate in this plan. They went straight to the duty hall, where Officer Kyle Rourke was still sitting lazily. Deputy Chief Ramirez, with a stern face and an authoritative voice, loudly announced, "Attention, all officers present! The new police chief of the city of Bridgeport, Ms. Aaliyah Hayes, has officially arrived. Everyone is requested to gather in the department's conference room in 5 minutes for the official introduction ceremony and to listen to the chief's instructions." Officer Kyle Rourke and several other officers who were on duty that night were extremely surprised and somewhat confused. They had never received any official notice that the new police chief would arrive so early, and so late at night. Everything happened so suddenly. At that moment, the glass front door of the police station opened once more. Aaliyah Hayes walked in, but this time, not as the ragged, pitiful Brenda Jackson. She had changed into a brand new sheriff's uniform, tailored to fit her strong and authoritative figure. On her shoulders, the sheriff's badge stars sparkled in the light. Her long black hair was neatly tied back, revealing a high, intelligent forehead. Her face, after a light but sharp makeup, no longer had any trace of fear or weakness, but instead was determined, cold, and an undeniable air of leadership. She walked straight, with steady, confident steps, in front of Officer Kyle Rourke, who stood there, mouth agape, unable to believe what he was seeing. He recognized immediately, without a trace, the black woman he had just insulted, cursed, and even brutally assaulted less than 20 minutes ago. "Hello, Officer Rourke," Aaliyah Hayes said, her voice calm, even but containing an invisible authority, a coldness that made him shiver. "It seems we have met before? If my memory serves me right, it was only about 20 minutes ago, right?" Deputy Chief David Ramirez, at a discreet signal from Aaliyah, signaled to a technical officer to come along. The officer quickly opened a laptop, connecting it to a large television screen hanging in the duty hall. And then, the video of Officer Kyle Rourke's entire behavior, from the insults, the profanities, the heavy racial slurs, to the action of swinging his arm straight into Aaliyah Hayes' shoulder, was played back clearly, without missing a single detail, accompanied by undeniable audio. Officer Kyle Rourke's face went from white to ashen, then quickly turned ashen. He trembled, his whole body drenched in cold sweat, even though the air in the room was not hot. He knew that this time he was really done. It was all over, without any trace of the previous aggressiveness, arrogance, or complacency. Officer Kyle Rourke suddenly fell to his knees hitting the cold marble floor with a dry thud. He clasped his hands together in front of his chest, weeping bitterly, begging Aaliyah Hayes in a humiliating manner. "Sir, Sheriff, I really don't know. I apologize to you. Please have mercy. Forgive me this time. I have a foolish wife, a young child at home. Please give me a chance to make things right." Aaliyah Hayes looked at him with an icy gaze, without the slightest wavering, without the slightest mercy. "When you swung your fist at a vulnerable black woman, a citizen who came to seek help from the police, when you trampled on her dignity and honor, when you used racial slurs to insult her, did you think about your wife and children at home, Officer Rourke? Did you think about your oath of honor as a police officer?" In front of the many police officers present in the duty hall, who were still shocked and surprised by the sudden turn of events, Police Chief Aaliyah Hayes loudly declared. Her voice was firm and authoritative, without any hesitation. "Officer Kyle Rourke, you are suspended from duty immediately. From this moment, an official dismissal decision will be issued as soon as possible, after completing the necessary procedures. At the same time, I also request the Internal Investigation Department and the City Prosecutor's Office to immediately conduct a criminal investigation into your abuse of power, assault on citizens, and serious violation of professional ethics." She then turned to look at all the other police officers present, her sharp eyes scanning each one. "This is my first and last warning as the new police chief of Bridgeport. From this day forward, any act of discrimination based on race, gender, religion, or any other factor, any act of abuse of power, authority, or arrogance, any act of violence against any citizen, no matter how minor, will be dealt with to the fullest extent possible, without any exceptions, without any cover-ups or tolerance. The Bridgeport Police Department must truly be a place to protect and serve all citizens of this city, regardless of who they are, where they come from, whether they are rich or poor, or what color their skin is. We must regain the trust of the community." The new female police chief's strong, powerful, and determined statement made all the police officers present feel a strong shock. They knew that a new era, a major change was about to take place at the Bridgeport Police Department. A criminal investigation into Kyle Rourke was immediately launched, under the close supervision of Police Chief Aaliyah Hayes and Deputy Chief David Ramirez, with the evidence that was no longer incontrovertible, including high-quality video and audio recordings, detailed testimony from Aaliyah Hayes, and witness testimony from Mr. Lee, who bravely came forward to confirm the incident. Kyle Rourke was quickly prosecuted by the prosecution. He was officially permanently fired from the police force, losing everything he had ever owned. Colleagues and former superiors who had covered up and tolerated his wrongdoings were also investigated and may face severe disciplinary action. At trial, faced with overwhelming evidence, Kyle Rourke was unable to offer any excuse for his actions. He was sentenced to a term of imprisonment. In addition, he was also forced by the court to attend mandatory anger management, awareness, and anti-discrimination classes. Not stopping there. Aaliyah Hayes, as an individual, although she was the chief of police, the violent act was aimed at her when she was acting as a normal citizen, decided to file a civil lawsuit in court, demanding that Kyle Rourke compensate for physical damages and especially the serious mental injuries he caused her. Facing the risk of losing everything he had left, facing an uncertain future, Kyle Rourke finally had to accept an out-of-court settlement. Accordingly, he had to pay Aaliyah Hayes $55,000. Immediately after receiving this amount, Aaliyah Hayes publicly announced that she would use all of the money to establish a small charity fund to provide legal and material support to victims of police violence and racial discrimination in the city of Bridgeport. Her action received enthusiastic support and applause from the community. Under the strong and direct leadership of Police Chief Aaliyah Hayes, the Bridgeport Police Department began an unprecedented and comprehensive reform. She changed a series of important policies related to the use of force by the police, clearly defining what is allowed and what is not allowed. She also requested to increase the equipment and use of body-worn surveillance cameras for all police officers on duty, to ensure transparency and objectivity. An independent civilian oversight board, including representatives of community organizations and legal experts, was also established to monitor and evaluate the performance of the police force. And most importantly, Aaliyah Hayes organized mandatory, regular, and intensive training courses on cultural diversity, anti-bias, and community communication skills for all police officers, from the lowest to the highest levels. Immediately after resolving the case of Officer Kyle Rourke quickly and decisively, Aaliyah Hayes officially started working as a police chief. She organized a series of meetings and direct dialogues with representatives of community organizations, religious leaders, social activists, and ordinary people to listen to their thoughts, aspirations, concerns, and suggestions. She publicly pledged to the entire city that she would do her best to build a Bridgeport police force that was truly professional, fair, honest, and closer to the people. The image of a strong, determined, and dedicated black female police chief brought great hope and a new breath of life to many Bridgeporters who had long lost faith in the fairness of the law. Kyle Rourke's case has officially been closed. He has received a fitting consequence, a lesson for his reckless and wrongful actions. His life has since turned a dark page, full of hardship and contempt. Aaliyah Hayes, with her impressive and strong first action upon taking office, has created an extremely important push, a promising start for the comprehensive reform of the Bridgeport Police Department. Although she knew that the road ahead would be full of difficulties, challenges, and hidden opposition from conservative and negative people, she had a very strong and meaningful start. Deputy Chief David Ramirez, with his loyalty, ability, and experience, has become a strong right-hand man, a trusted companion of Aaliyah Hayes in this arduous reform process. Mr. Lee, an Asian man who bravely stood up as a witness to the incident, felt extremely relieved and happy to see that justice was finally strictly enforced. He believes that small but correct actions of each citizen can also contribute to making society better. The case of the female police chief in disguise caught a corrupt officer red-handed caused a great shock in the city of Bridgeport and quickly spread to the media across the country. Major newspapers and television stations have all reported and praised the courage, intelligence, and strong determination to reform of Police Chief Aaliyah Hayes. The Black community and other ethnic minorities in Bridgeport have expressed extremely strong and enthusiastic support for their new female police chief. They have placed a lot of faith and hope in the positive changes she can bring to the city. However, besides the praise and support, it is inevitable that there is a small group that has spoken out against Aaliyah Hayes' somewhat tough and shocking way of working. They think that it is just a trick to polish her name, or a hasty action that can cause internal instability. But Aaliyah Hayes is not shaken by those criticisms. She knew that in order to change a system that was deeply flawed and rotten from within, sometimes it took strong, decisive, and uncompromising action. The true power of a leader lies not in the uniform they wear, not in the baton or gun they carry, but in the righteousness, integrity of their heart, and the courage to face the truth, to fight for what is right, no matter how harsh and unacceptable that truth may be. Discrimination and violence can never be tolerated, can never be accepted, especially by those who are entrusted by the people with the responsibility of protecting the law and social justice. What do you think of Police Chief Aaliyah Hayes' bold undercover scheme? Was it a smart, necessary, and effective tactic to get a handle on the state of the police department? If you were Officer Kyle Rourke, how would you feel? How would you react when you suddenly realized that the woman you had just brutally assaulted was your new boss, the person holding the highest power in your police department? Does this story give you more faith or skepticism about the possibility of reforming and cleaning up today's public agencies? Do you think that strong, decisive, and passionate leaders like Aaliyah Hayes can really make a positive, lasting difference in society?